India formally takes over the G20 presidency from Indonesia today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has promised an inclusive and action-oriented leadership.
But as Neha Poonia reports, India's role at the top of the bloc will involve a diplomatic balancing act like no other.
One Earth, one family, one future. That's India's motto for its G20 presidency. But that slogan will truly be put to the test next year when it plays host to world leaders here in New Delhi. Ahead of that leaders summit in September, India plans to hold more than 200 meetings and G20 events across 50 cities. The idea, officials say, is to put India on the world map and to show off the country's capacity to host such a big event for the first time. This is India's moment in the sun, experts say, but one that will need the country to deftly balance its diplomatic interests with domestic concerns. Mr. Modi has acknowledged that India's presidency is coming at a time of global chaos, but he says he wants to ensure New Delhi plays the role of a problem solver.
अगले एक साल में हमारा प्रयत्न रहेगा कि G20 नए विचारों की परिकल्पना के लिए और सामूहिक एक्शन को गति देने के लिए एक ग्लोबल प्राइम मूवर की तरह काम करे.
The most difficult thing on the agenda will be building consensus on and de-escalating the conflict in Ukraine. The joint declaration at the Bali G20 this year echoed Mr. Modi's words to President Putin. This is not an era for war, the Indian Prime Minister had said at a bilateral earlier this year. New Delhi cannot solve the problem, but because of its historical ties with Moscow and continued engagement with the West, India is being courted by all the players involved in the conflict, and that could be pivotal to holding a successful summit.
India is the one place where you can imagine Russian representatives sitting alongside the EU and maybe even sitting with the United States in trying to find some balance with regards to the future. And I think that's the best that a country can do. Look at how many countries can set that conditionality today. Can Europe do it? No. Can the United States do it? No. Can China and Russia do it? No. Putin didn't go to Bali. I'm very much hopeful that he will come to New Delhi.
So is India the new international power broker, the new stabilizing force globally, like some experts are claiming? For years, it has walked a diplomatic tightrope, very carefully navigating the Russia-US rivalry. And this Russian Cultural Festival in India's capital city is proof that even now, when the world is shunning Moscow, New Delhi is standing by its old friend. India has condemned the war in Ukraine, but not Russia's invasion, and it has consistently abstained from UN votes against Moscow. New Delhi continues to buy heavily discounted Russian oil, saying it is prioritizing the needs of its 1.4 billion citizens. And it has a thriving defense partnership with Russia dating back to the Cold War. This year, bilateral trade between Moscow and New Delhi also tripled despite threats of sanctions from the US. All of this while India expands engagement with the US and Western allies, helping the global north balance China's rise.
India today is less self-conscious of its own actions. And that is important because, you know, when you are seeking to break out of poverty, of disempowerment internationally and globally speaking, and you want to make your voice heard, you have to take sometimes difficult decisions.
For India, the G20 presidency will also be an attempt to bring the group's focus back to economic challenges facing the world, something that will also have resonance at home as Mr. Modi gears up to seek another term in 2024. An economic slowdown, rising food and energy prices, and lingering shocks to the economy because of COVID are all on India's priority list. Officials say India will also use its presidency to become a voice for the global south and for poorer nations who are suffering the ravages of conflicts the West is engaged in. Neha Poonia, CNA, New Delhi.